DC's got a ton of classic villains, but also a ton of totally one-off, ridiculous villains. And those, the most terrible ones, those are my favorite. Here's some of the very worst DC Comics supervillains. He's a creepo. Yeah. MENTO is basically cheap Tony Stark with a helmet that makes him psychic. MENTO used the helmet that he had to woo and impress Rita Farr, Elastigirl. She's from the Doom Patrol. And then eventually the two of them did get married. And as non-consensual as that sounds, you're exactly right. It was also 1964. Doesn't excuse it. Steve Dayton, his alter ego, gradually suffered neurological degradation and psychological problems due in part to the helmet itself and the inability to be entirely sure whether or not his wife truly loved him or the MENTO helmet. Also, if you put him in Diet Coke, he explodes. The Royal Flush Gang. It's a bunch of bank robbers dressed as a freaking deck of cards. Come on. Alright, they also had some sort of luck-altering technology that they used to help them rob banks and be more Texas Hold'em-y. Who cares? Hell yeah. A man obsessed with kites and is a divorced alcoholic dad who turns to a life of crime? Not that big of a surprise. Originally, Kite Man was a fully joke character, and he returned in DC Rebirth in Tom King's Batman as slightly less of a joke, I guess. He's been a minor player in the entirety of the series so far, and he plays a bigger role in the War of Jokes and Riddles, but his signature catchphrase, Kite Man, hell yeah, is perhaps the very best catchphrase of any hero or villain ever. Having accidentally been merged with a bunch of silicon in a nuclear accident, and the silicon having shifted a proton to become phosphorus, Dr. Phosphorus is just constantly on fire. Like, turning to a life of crime is awful, but literally never being able to sit down or sleep in a bed because you're just constantly on fire is a pretty damn good reason to be evil. Like, I get it, he's a bad guy, but is anybody gonna help him? Most recently, the reformed Atomic Skull showed up as a guard in the superpowered Belle Reve prison, trying to keep Hal Jordan from breaking Hector Hammond out of prison. It's a much longer story. The original Atomic Skull was just a scientist who was getting really bad headaches. So some other scientists were like, hey, what if we put radium in your brain to cure it? And whoopsie daisy, it made him into a murder machine. He's now able to fire atomic blasts from his brain. So, you know, he did what we would all do in that situation. Make a skull-shaped hovercraft and mutate a panther into a human woman so you could have sex with it. Thanks 1950s, for nothing. Obsessed over the size of his teeny tiny dick in high school, CODPIECE grew to develop an Iron Man armor for his iron dong. Yes, at some point somebody in DC Comics was like, yeah, we need a dick-based supervillain. CODPIECE turned his codpiece, a name that's just a little bit on the head, into a machine gun. Not just that, a grenade launcher, a blaster, a drill, and pretty much anything else that you can imagine that's even remotely phallic. His codpiece game wasn't too strong though, because he didn't have the stamina to last beyond a single issue of Doom Patrol. Turns out codpiece was just a one-pump chump. The original INCEL, codpiece. Welp. There you go, some of the most bullshit villains in DC Comics. But don't worry, there's more. There's so many more. And I'll be bringing them to you, maybe next time, maybe later, right here on the Doomcast. Thanks everybody, we'll see you next week.